I don't have Castle Xyntillan. I've heard good things about it. So let's see what I always like reading after action reports or things. So let's read this one. So we've got this session was titled "Turn the Other Cheek" from March 11th. Characters are Arthur, that's a cleric; Pickles, a halfling; Clyde, the aesthetic, another cleric; Gwen's a thief; Alcine and Terry are light footmen, so they're hirelings; and then Donna is another cleric. All right, so we got a bunch of clerics in this patty. After a very busy week of downtime, including Gwen's invasion of the wizard Zah's townhouse and his assassination, well, the party advanced out to Castle Xyntillan in, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how I am pronouncing it, in search of treasure. They decided to make camp in an alternate stretch of woodland on this journey. Their reasoning was that they've not changed their approach to the castle for many weeks. Zah's men had surveyed them, and possibly their enemies in Xyntillan. Or Xyntillan, might have discovered their plans as well. So this is kind of interesting. So it seems like from what they're saying in this alternate stretch that they picked a different camp spot. They've been camping in one spot, and now they switched it, which is kind of a good idea because certainly in an ongoing campaign like this, your location is going to be marked. And if you don't have a good, say, fortified location or something like that, it's just an open air, your regular old campsite, very easy to get caught in an ambush or something else. So switching it up seems like a good idea. Though, of course, maybe this woodland isn't as safe as the other woodland you're in, so you might have raised the danger level a little bit, but probably a good trade-off. During the night's second watch, at around 1 a.m, Gwen and Alcine witnessed a gaggle of figures march toward the castle. So they are definitely in view of the castle, which is interesting. The lithe thief moved closer for a better look. A tall, broody, dark-haired elf led a party of armored men. She had heard of this group, a rival adventuring party that called themselves the League of Silver. Gwen slunk back to the campsite. I wonder if they're just really close to the castle so they can see it, or if they had put a watch on the castle. Also, it's 1 a.m, and they actually got some pretty good details. I don't know. Maybe they have, because I don't give any of my players night vision, but I feel like I'd love to know that they do something more to get that, because I think that's a lot of information for 1 a.m. in the morning without, maybe they're using torches, that party that's coming, and they were able to spot it. But if they're some distance away and it's in the middle of the night, I'm not sure how I would, or maybe there's just a generous GM, because I'm not sure I would give all that information. I'd be all about their silhouettes. You can hear the clinking of armor. Maybe you might be able to, if you're keen-eyed, maybe you might see that one of them's a little bit different and maybe has sort of an elfish quality to them, but I don't know. In any case, they got them pegged. League of Silver. Hours later, during Pickles' watch, he saw the party come back out of the castle carrying a heavy chest. Lucky buggers. They seemed to do well. At night, too. At dawn, the party traveled towards the castle, crossing the moat and going up to the windows that they had broken into many moons ago. A grappling hook was loosed. Crash, one of the windows went in. The rope was pulled tight, I think taut, but tight, finding purchase. All was quiet as the party waited for a volunteer to climb up. Not me. I don't want to go. We'll make Terry go, came the brave suggestion from Gwen. I certainly won't, the broad-shouldered soldier said. What if something lops me head off? The party put a few coins together and bribed the simpleton to climb up, for he desperately needed money to woo a local maiden named Hildegard Bonner. I really like this part, right? So here, the little section from Terry, hireling. Okay, so NPC attached to the party, but it's its own individual. And just telling him, you go up there, no one else is going up there. This person's clearly seeing that, like, I'm the low man on the totem pole. I'm not going. I'm not going up there. And and as a footman, that's you could argue whether that's even there in their job description anyway, to be first man up. Like, they're not a scout, they're a guard, soldier, or whatever. It's like, I'm not going up there. So what do? You could threaten them to go up there. You could just find somebody else to go up there, or you could do what they did and bribe them. And I like the little character building moment here of he's got a little bit of a backstory back there. There's a local maiden named Hildegard. He's trying to woo her, so he needs money. That's all good stuff. I don't know if this was something that was developed in advance or if it was come up on the spot, or whether even this information is even known to the party if they just decide to give him money and here's the GM's sort of internal reasoning that they're writing out. But either way, that's good stuff, and it illustrates that the kind of fun that you can have with hirelings, the kind of, in a sense, part of the puzzle that they are. They're not just there to throw themselves blindly for the characters. Character orders you to go over there, you just go. Not there. And we don't have any kind of the mechanics in here, so we don't know if reaction rolls were made or whatnot. But however it was determined, this hireling was like, no, I'm not going to do it until they sweeten the pot. And then he went in. Hey, RPG Grandma. All right. For that, so they get him to go in. The man quickly scaled the rope and climbed into the window, but soon there came a scream and a flapping of arms, and after a few seconds, Terry rushed back down the rope. A great big knight was stood right next to the window. He tried to lop me head off. What did I tell you? I nearly met me maker there. All right, so there was something bad. Something bad in that room. After pondering whether to try another window, the party decided on going back down into the castle's wine cellar. Down in the dark, they had found a hollow barrel containing a ladder down into an unknown chamber. They marched onward, and the rope was swiftly pulled up by an unseen hand. Ooh. You're not getting that one back. And presumably, and I don't know how Castle Xyntillan's set up, but at least some of the occupants now know that somebody's coming. If they didn't hear the window crash or see the rope being thrown up there, they certainly know now. They opened the large double doors of the grand entrance, and as before, the gargoyles animated, laughing and clicking its fingers. The party quickly went into the head butler's room. They searched around a little and paid Terry to feel through an old musty butler uniform. He found a fine sovereign ring. Before going down into the wine cellar, the party decided to try and find a way into the secret door in the fireplace they discovered earlier. Up in the chimney, there was the dried husk of a gentleman, his face stretched in a silent scream. They shot at this with an arrow, and it crumbled into charcoal. Well, that's a little grisly info. The cleric Clyde probed the eagle cornices of the mantelpiece, and lo and behold, the uniform square brickwork of the fireplace clicked and swung inward. The who would go entered the smoky chamber. Let's pay Terry to go in. Oh, such bravery. And with a few coins, Terry went on into the gap. He reported back that he found the carcasses of unknown beasts hanging on meat hooks. The party, disturbed by this finding, encouraged him deeper into the chamber. In he went, never to return. Oh, that's creepy. Let's stick this chair in the doorway so it doesn't close. Maybe he will come back. He didn't. Oh, sorry, Terry. We hardly knew you, and you were such a character. The party went down into the cellar. In a moment of madness, a party member knocked on the arched door which led into the wine cellar. Come in. A sickly sweet voice called back from beyond the door. Pickles recognized the voice as that of Ambrosius the monk, whom he had met once before. Whoops, their cover was blown. The party went in and greeted the monk. Is that Pickles? Ah, my little lord? I'm so glad to see you've returned. The portly friar was sat atop a cask and turned dramatically. In the flickering lamplight, the party saw his face, angry and swollen, one half of it melted almost to the bone. Yoo-hoo-hoo. Have you come to finish the job, my little lord? The bitter monk mocked. Have you come to take the rest of my face? Pickles realized immediately what must have happened. Last time he was down here, the party had got the monk so drunk he'd passed out. Moments later, they had inadvertently released an ooze creature from one of the casks. That ooze must have eaten the monk's face. Oh, consequences, consequences. He peered at the party with his one good eye. Come close, my lad. Won't you come and make a toast with me? To health? Pickles approached him, the party's protestations echoing out behind him. That's right, lad. All can be made right. The monk took a hold of him like a dog with a rag doll and pushed his curly-haired head down to the cask's tap, the very cask containing the slime. An eye for an eye. Now let us turn the other cheek. Oh, this is good stuff. The party rushed to their small friend's aid as the monk began to turn the tap. Arthur and Clyde launched onto the portly giant, pulling him down to the ground as Gwen loosed an arrow into his bulky gut. Within a few moments, the half-faced giant tossed them aside and had the halfling in his grasp once again and pushed him down below the dreaded tap. Clyde took off his rucksack and stuffed it over Pickles' face, hoping this would shield his face from the ooze about to be released. Arthur swung his mace into the dark fire, colliding with what must have been plate armor under his robes. Pickles, in desperation, grabbed his dagger and stabbed into Ambrosius' groin, blood splashing onto his wrist. The monk grimaced and cried out, grabbed his mace from his belt, and without a moment's hesitation smote the halfling with a few solid blows. Oof, little was left of Pickles' body. Naught but a smear. Oh, 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 that was almost too much for me. Excuse me. Naught but a smear. Well, that was quite the moment. Now then, my friends, with that nasty matter out of the way, let's introduce ourselves. I don't believe I've met any of you, the deranged holy man asked. Very tempestuously, the party began speaking with the man, and very gingerly took up his offer of a toast. After some time, the madman became fatigued and departed for his abode. The party quickly filled their wineskins with some of the delicious brews he had allowed them to taste. After a little ransacking, a new voice called out. A cleric named Donna had advanced down into the dungeon and introduced herself to the party. Onwards to glory. So I'm guessing that was Pickles is now back as Donna. They opened the false cask and one by one climbed down. The chamber below had the faint smell of pine needles and mulch. A long set of stained stairs led deep, deep into the earth. The flagstone soon gave way to a natural cave system lined with many ancient and crude gargoyles depicting satires. The smell of forest became very overwhelming, and after descending the steep incline for what seemed like an age, the party came into a mossy natural cave. Empty wine bottles lay strewn about, chicken bones and other waste material as well. Then a strange horned head poked out from the cave's mouth. A gangly satyr introduced himself. He wore a small brown robe, and his hirsute face framed cunning, hungry eyes. He introduced himself as the keeper of the grotto, for his name would not be pronounceable to humans. The party talked at length with the strange being, offering him almost all of their wineskins, which he furiously downed with an insatiable thirst. Once he was placated with wine, the devilish creature told them that he was enemies with a fiendish cult in the woods. Woods? The outside of the cave itself was most strange, a vast woodland below a pink-hued sky lit by a single purple star. The creature then started sniffing the party, convinced that he could smell the evil of the cultists on one of them, Gwen. Arthur convinced the satyr that her smell was only from exposure to the evils upstairs. That was when the party's new friend wanted to blow his pipes and pipe a ditty, but worried by the consequences this might bring, Arthur opted to sing him one of his lovely hymns instead. Soon the creature was off to sleep. With the beast snoring, Gwen took it upon herself to try and steal its strange pipe, which one moment looked like a steel flute, then like a wooden set of panpipes. As she touched it, a ravaging cold racked her body, and she fell to the ground in pain. As the flute fell to the ground, it became a piece of wood and began rapidly growing roots. The party scooped this up into a bag and fled back up the stairs into the cellar, where they refilled their skins and made off with their treasures. Later on, the flute had grown to a small, sickly olive tree with 8 red fruits. In town, they had these identified and were told they might have health benefits. What will they do next? Oh, so this was good. This was a lot of fun to read. A couple of things I think to note. Again, I've not read Xyntillan. It seems there's a little bit of maybe there's some overarching theme here. It feels a little bit funhousey, not in a bad way, but just you have this kind of maybe like an alter, like, I don't know, a pocket universe down there, some kind of hollow earth situation down that ladder into the ground. Maybe it will connect back up in some way. I don't know. I love the consequences, right? So the monk had come in, got the giant drunk, fell asleep. Then they broke open. They released this ooze. They leave. They didn't think anything might happen. But of course, they left the giant laying asleep on the floor, and the ooze did its work. And that consequence paid off in this session. Now, unfortunately for Pickles, rest in power, Pickles, it didn't work out for them. But I think if I'm the party now, it's going to make me careful. Like, what stuff we leave? If we leave this door open, if we do this thing, we stole this thing's panpipes. It's not necessarily just localized there. We got if we're going to be coming back, which presumably are, since this is a mega dungeon, then we're going to have to necessarily deal with things. So be careful about what we do. You can't just leave things and just assume that, like in a computer RPG, they're just going to sit there and do nothing. Stuff's going to collide, and we have to live with it. That was really good. I also, poor Terry went into the room and never came back. I really liked the elements with him and how they had to bribe and coax him to do things that were dangerous, which, hey, as a hireling, might not want to do. It's not a foregone conclusion that they're just going to do what you want them to do. I liked a little bit of the backstory. I don't know if that came out in gameplay or that was just filled in by the GM as why the bribery worked, but that was fun. And like in OSR gaming, it's tough, right? This thing with the giant, it was going to be a hard fight. Once they put themselves in that spot, it was tough. I think I'd be curious to hear if some kind of 5e type players read this, if they would think this was cool, or would they feel a little bit like there's nothing they could do. But of course, there was tons of things they could do. The first one is when the giant is coaxing you over to have a toast with him, Pickles, don't go. That would have probably helped. Once Pickles got himself in this giant's grasp, that was going to be just very tough. But there were decisions beforehand, including, hey, not getting him drunk and having ooze, letting him lay down for some ooze in the first place. So also an interesting element, kind of that sort of OSR gameplay, right? That in some ways that was really dicey. Once they got to that point, it was kind of going to be, once Pickles got in there, it was going to be really hard to get him out. And you could look at that and say, from that moment, once he grabs Pickles, it's kind of over for Pickles. But that's kind of okay. Pickles is a halfling. It's a giant. It's going to be hard once Pickles is just in this thing's grasp. And then, yeah, sure, maybe Pickles couldn't do much to get out of it in that moment, but there were all kinds of moments leading up to it where Pickles had other choices to be made that poor Pickles didn't make. Good stuff. Really good write-up. I enjoyed that immensely.